My daughter secretly took $500 from my purse, which led me to punish her by locking her in her room without food. When my husband found out, he erupted in anger and threw tea in my face right in front of our 9-year-old son. At that moment, I decided to call 911 for help, but before they arrived, something unexpected happened that changed everything. My name is Julia, and I want to share my story with you. It's a tale of resilience, pain, and ultimately empowerment. As I sit here in my small apartment in Atlanta, I often reflect on the choices I made and the life I've led, especially as a receptionist at a busy office. The long hours can be exhausting, but my job allows me to provide for my two beautiful children, Emma and Jacob. Emma is 15 now, a typical teenager who often challenges my boundaries. Just the other day, I caught her texting late at night, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone. I used to think this phase would pass, but it seems to grow more intense with each day. "Mom, I need this for school," she protests whenever I question her choices. I remember feeling so overwhelmed during my teenage years, and sometimes I find it hard to draw the line between understanding her and enforcing discipline. Jacob, my sweet boy, is 9. He's quieter than Emma, observant and perceptive. He has a knack for sensing when things aren't right. When I'm having a bad day, he'll come up to me, wrap his little arms around my waist, and say, "It'll be okay, Mom." His innocence gives me strength, reminding me of the joy that can still exist amidst the chaos. Then there's Peter, my husband, who is in his late 30s. I can hardly believe how our lives have turned out. He was charming once, full of dreams and aspirations, but as time passed, those dreams shifted, and so did he. Peter became controlling, criticizing my every decision, from how I managed the household to how I raised our children. His voice would rise over small disagreements, and I learned to stay silent to keep the peace. I remember one particular evening, returning home after a long shift at the office. My feet ached, and my mind was spinning. As I entered our small apartment, the familiar scent of dinner cooking filled the air, but the chaos was unmistakable. Jacob was playing with his toys on the floor, while Emma sat on the couch, glued to her phone. The TV blared in the background, adding to the noise. "Emma, could you please help out a bit?" I asked, trying to muster some patience. She barely glanced up, muttering, "I'm busy, Mom." I sighed, understanding the battle I had on my hands. After putting my things away, I headed to my purse to grab some money for groceries. That's when I noticed it. $500 was missing. My heart sank. I knew exactly how much I had taken out for the week. I walked back to the living room, trying to keep my tone casual. "Hey, Emma, have you seen any money in my purse? It seems to be missing." Emma finally looked up, her expression shifting to guilt. "Oh, I meant to tell you, I took some for a school project," she admitted, her voice hesitant. "I didn't think you'd mind." I felt a rush of anger mixed with disappointment. "You took it without asking, Emma. That's not okay. It's about trust and respect." "But it was just money," she protested, frustration rising in her tone. "You're locking me in a room for this? It's unfair. This isn't just about punishment," I replied, my voice firm. "It's about teaching you responsibility." Emma rolled her eyes, throwing her hands in the air. "This is so dumb. I have a life, you know." As the argument escalated, I could feel my patience wearing thin. "This isn't just about money, Emma. It's about learning to ask before you take. I'm your mother, and I need you to understand that." Just then, the front door swung open, and Peter stepped in. His eyes darkened when he saw the tension in the room. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Emma took money from my purse without asking, and now she's locked in her room," I explained, hoping to keep it calm. Peter scoffed, shaking his head. "You're punishing her for taking a little cash." "Seriously? You're being too controlling, Julia." His words felt like daggers. "It's not about the amount, Peter. It's about honesty and trust. You make everything about rules and punishments. Maybe if you weren't so harsh, she wouldn't feel the need to hide things. Peter shot back, pacing the room. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. This is about teaching our daughter the right values. Right values? He sneered. You think you're perfect? You're the one turning my kids against me with your strictness. My heart raced as I tried to defend myself. I'm not turning anyone against you. You're doing that by being unreasonable. Our argument escalated quickly, voices rising as emotions boiled over. I felt trapped, like a caged animal. Then, in a split second, everything changed. Peter grabbed a cup of tea and threw it in my face. The hot liquid scalded my skin, and I stumbled back, shocked and confused. Mom. Jacob cried from the hallway, his wide eyes reflecting fear. I quickly wiped my face, trying to shield him from the ugliness of the moment. I'm fine, honey. Go back to your room, please, I urged him, my voice shaking. As Jacob retreated, I turned back to Peter, heart pounding. You just threw tea at me, I whispered, my voice trembling. I didn't mean to, Julia, he said, eyes wide with surprise. No, you did. You crossed a line tonight. I felt the weight of reality crashing down on me. This couldn't go on. I needed to protect myself and my children. As I sat on the couch, the sting of Peter's actions still fresh on my cheek, I knew this was the turning point. I had to take action. The fear that had quietly crept into our home could no longer be ignored. I needed help. That night felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. After Peter left the room, I sat in silence, my heart racing as I replayed the moment over and over in my mind. The sharp sting on my cheek served as a painful reminder that the man I had once loved had become someone I didn't recognize. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted, the events of the previous night playing over and over in my head. I knew I couldn't go on like this. I needed to do something, not just for myself, but for my children. After sending Emma and Jacob off to school, I sat in the kitchen, staring blankly at my cup of coffee, wondering what my next move should be. That's when I decided to reach out to my closest friend, Hannah. We'd known each other for years, and I knew she would understand. Hannah, I need your help, I whispered into the phone, my voice shaking. Julia, what's wrong? She asked, her tone immediately filled with concern. It's Peter. He threw tea on me last night, in front of Jacob. I can't stay here anymore. Julia, pack your things and come stay with me. You and the kids. You can't go back to that place, she urged. I can't just leave everything behind, I stammered, glancing around my small kitchen. What about the kids? What will I tell them? Tell them the truth, that you're keeping them safe. Please just come here. We'll figure it out together. My heart raced as I hung up the phone. Was I really going to do this? Leave everything behind? But as I thought about Peter's rage, the look in Jacob's eyes, and the fear that had become a constant in our home, I knew I had no other choice. I packed a bag with a few essentials, taking only what we needed. I hesitated for a moment, staring at the small apartment that had been our home for so long, but I knew I couldn't stay. When Emma and Jacob got home from school, I was ready. Kids, we're going to stay at Aunt Hannah's for a while, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Why? Emma asked, her eyes narrowing. Because we need some time away from Dad, I replied softly. It's just for now, I promise. Emma's gaze shifted from suspicion to something else, something like understanding. Is it because of what happened last night? She asked quietly. Yes, I admitted, my heart aching. I need to make sure we're all safe. The drive to Hannah's felt surreal. The kids were quiet in the back seat, and I could see the confusion and fear in their eyes. I wanted to reassure them, to promise that everything would be okay, but I didn't have the words. All I could do was keep driving. Hannah met us at the door, her arms open wide. You're safe now, she murmured, pulling me into a hug. You're safe here. I broke down then, the weight of everything crashing over me. The years of fear, the isolation, the pain, everything I'd kept hidden for so long. But as I cried in Hannah's arms, I felt something else, too, a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could start over. The next few weeks were a blur of adjusting to our new reality. I focused on making life as normal as possible for Emma and Jacob, keeping them busy with school and activities. Hannah was a godsend, helping me navigate the chaos of leaving, providing support and encouragement when I felt like crumbling. One afternoon, as I sat on Hannah's porch, sipping tea, I realized I had to take the next step. I couldn't hide forever. "I'm going to file for divorce," I said quietly, more to myself than to anyone else. Hannah looked up, her expression filled with pride. "You should, Julia. It's time." The process was grueling, filled with legalities and confrontations I hadn't anticipated. Every time I had to see Peter, every time he tried to manipulate or intimidate me, I felt that old fear creeping in. But I kept my head high, refusing to back down. I had to do this for myself and my children. Finally, after months of fighting, it was over. I stood in the courtroom, listening as the judge read out the decision. Full custody of the children is awarded to Mrs. Julia Walters. Relief washed over me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I'd done it. I'd protected my kids. I'd taken back control of my life. As I left the courthouse, I looked up at the sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, and I knew I was free. The following months were a time of rebuilding. I found a small apartment, just big enough for the three of us, and began to piece our lives back together. The kids adjusted slowly, but as the days passed, I saw them start to thrive. Emma joined the school's debate team and made new friends. Jacob discovered a love for basketball and spent hours practicing at the local park. I found a new job at a small marketing firm where my colleagues were kind and supportive. It wasn't easy, balancing work and home life on my own, but I felt stronger with each passing day. The fear that had once gripped my heart began to fade, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. One evening, as we sat around our tiny kitchen table, eating dinner, Emma looked up at me and said, "Mom, I'm glad we left. You seem happier." I smiled, my heart swelling with love. "I am, sweetie. I really am." And I meant it, because for the first time, I felt truly free. Free to be the mother my children deserved. Free to be the woman I was meant to be. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. Our lives weren't perfect, but they were ours, and that was enough. That's where our story ends, in a place of hope and freedom. We survived, we overcame, and now we are finally free. The days turned into weeks, and I found myself settling into a routine I hadn't imagined before. With each new morning, I felt a little lighter, the chains of the past loosening bit by bit. I still had moments of doubt, flashes of fear, but they grew fewer and farther between. Emma and Jacob seemed happier too. Their laughter filled our small apartment, a sound I hadn't realized I'd been missing for so long. One day, as I was dropping Jacob off at basketball practice, I saw a familiar figure standing by the court. It was Peter. My heart stuttered in my chest, the old fear surging up like a tidal wave. But then I looked at Jacob, his face lighting up as he ran to join his friends. And I knew I couldn't let Peter's presence ruin this. I squared my shoulders and approached him. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice calm and even. Peter turned, surprise flickering across his face. I wanted to see Jacob." "You can't just show up unannounced," I said, my voice firm. "If you want to see him, we'll set up a time, but you don't get to disrupt his life like this." Peter blinked, as if he hadn't expected me to stand my ground. "I'm sorry," he murmured, glancing down. "I'll call next time." "Please do," I replied, turning away before the conversation could drag on. I didn't need his apology. I needed boundaries, and I wasn't going to let him cross them. Not anymore. As I drove away, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I'd faced Peter and held my own. I wasn't the same scared woman I'd been before. I was stronger now, and I wouldn't let him take that from me. The following weeks were a whirlwind of school events, work deadlines, and family time. Slowly but surely, we began to build new memories, free from the shadows of the past. One Saturday, as we sat in the living room, watching a movie together, Jacob turned to me. "Mom, do you think we'll ever go back?" he asked quietly. "Back," I repeated, frowning. "To the way things were," he murmured, looking down at his hands. I felt a pang in my chest, understanding what he meant. "No, sweetie, we're not going back," I said gently. "But that's a good thing. We're moving forward. We're building something new." He nodded slowly, seeming to digest my words. "I like it better this way," he whispered. "So do I," Emma added, surprising me. She rarely spoke about Peter or the past. I glanced over at her, but she was focused on the screen, her face calm and serene. My heart swelled with pride. They were healing. We were healing. Time passed, and life settled into a steady rhythm. I poured myself into my work, finding joy in small accomplishments and building new friendships. The kids continued to thrive, their smiles growing brighter each day, and little by little, the fear that had once gripped me began to fade. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Peter. I hesitated, staring at the envelope for a long moment before finally opening it. The letter was short, filled with apologies and promises to change. But as I read the words, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a sense of finality. I folded the letter neatly and put it away. It didn't matter what Peter said or promised. He was part of the past, and I was focused on the future. Months went by, and as the anniversary of our departure approached, I decided to do something special for Emma and Jacob. I packed a picnic and took them to a park we used to visit when they were younger, before everything had turned dark. We spread out a blanket and spent the afternoon playing games, eating sandwiches, and reminiscing about happier times. "Do you remember when we used to come here?" Emma asked, looking around the park with a soft smile. "Yeah," Jacob said, his eyes sparkling. "Dad would push us on the swings." The mention of Peter made my chest tighten, but I forced myself to smile. "Yes, I remember. But we're making new memories now. Just the three of us." Jacob grinned and nodded. "Just us." As the sun began to set, I looked at my children, their faces glowing in the soft light, and felt a deep sense of contentment. We had come so far, we had endured so much, but we were still standing, still together. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the porch, sipping a cup of tea, and let the memories wash over me. The fear, the pain, the uncertainty, they were all still there, buried deep. But they no longer controlled me. I was in control now. I had my children, my freedom, and a future that was ours to shape. This is where our story truly ends, not in bitterness or regret, but in hope. We survived, we healed, and we're finally free. The road ahead may still be uncertain, but I know we'll face it together with courage and love. Because we've learned that no matter how dark things get, there is always light on the other side.